Tree and this is Stitchless TV. Now today we're going to have a go at making a simple bikini. So for this bikini today you need some swimwear fabric, although it doesn't really have to be swimwear fabric. I'm just using regular kind of dance lycra fabric. And then you need something to line it as well. You can use some sort of power mesh or some fine stretchy lycra fabric. Also, you need some swimwear elastic. It's kind of like a rubberized elastic, but I think you can get away with regular elastic if you can't find it. Using my favourite bikini, I created this pattern. And basically, for the back piece, you just cut one in the fabric that you're using for your bikini, and then one in the stretch lining fabric. And then for the front, you cut one again in your lycra swimwear fabric and then one in the stretchy lining. Now this dotted line here is for that kind of little hygiene panty bit. Now because I couldn't find anything that I really liked the feel of, that I didn't mind being there by my lady garden, I've actually chopped up my son's old Y fronts. And then you need to cut two bits for the booby part, for the upper part of the bikini. And again, I just traced out my favourite bikini top. So you cut two in the regular fabric and two in the lining. Now, if your swimming lycra is thick enough and it's not see-through, you can probably get away with doing it without the lining. Now for the ties, I've cut mine on the cross. Don't know how necessary that is. And I've just cut loads of them. I've got 4 of these sort of long pieces. And then I've got some more pieces to go on the sides of the bikini bottom. First thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make the ties, because there are so many of them, I want to get them out of the way really. Well, I bet you're glad you finished that job. So you should have 4 long ones and 4 short ones. The short ones, they go on the side on your hips, on the bottoms, bikini bottoms, and then the 4 long ones, you've got one that goes off around your neck there and there for the halter neck, and then they go around the back. We're going to begin with the bikini bottoms. Right, so we are going to have to, first of all, stitch together swimwear fabric to the lining. Now I can really recommend going around your garment and just giving it a few little snips when you're sure that it's exactly in place to the way that you want it to be. Just that little tiny snips, just sort of, whoops, go around and do some little snips, because that way you will find it easier to make sure that everything stays in place. Now do it on the fronts as well. Now you have to hold the top fabric and the lining together. Now you can do a zigzag stitch, which is fine, okay, and I did do a zigzag stitch, but I do prefer the look of the overlocker. So if you don't have an overlocker, do a zigzag stitch, and you've got to do it all around all of the edges. And remember to keep those notches lined up, and then that way you know things haven't moved. So I'm going to use the overlocker. So you don't need to do this little bit here, but I will do the leg. So we're not chopping anything off, we're simply using it to hold our top fabric and our bottom fabric together. So I'm following my notches, making sure that they're all lined up like that. And then just going around the edge. So then it looks like that, which is quite nice. Now when you've overlocked those edges, you have to do this, okay? Which makes me think I should have overlocked the edges afterwards. You've got to put your front piece right sides together with your back piece. And then, if you get that sort of little nappy bit, you've got to put it on the back, okay, on the bottom bit. And you're going to stitch across here, and then you'll bring it over, and then you get that nice, neat edge. So we're going to use a very small zigzag stitch to stitch all of that together. So I've got it on a number 3 zigzag stitch and number 2 size stitch. And I've got my sort of sandwich thing now. And I'm going to put it underneath. Now where they actually cross is where I'm going to sew. So no stretching, but using a stretch stitch. I'm just going to come across. I'm not stretching anything. I'm going backwards and forwards when I get to the other side. And then when you've done that, you might want to cut off the excess, because otherwise it could be quite bulky. So then I'm going to fold that back towards the front of the bikini and line it up. It doesn't look like I've cut it very well, so I'm going to reshape it a bit now. And then you need to zigzag it on that edge and zigzag it on that edge, but I think I'm going to go over it again with the overlocker to hold it into place. So you don't sew across here, you just sew the edges, and that becomes like your little hygienic patch. Right, now what we have to do is basically zigzag this elastic with a little bit of stretch, going all the way around all of our edges. And then after that, we end up folding them in and finishing off with a zigzag or a twin needle. So that's what we're going to do now. So I'm going to start going along there. So it's a little bit of stretch. Okay, just a little, hold it behind and hold it in front. Just a little bit, but it's up to you how much stretch you want to do. I don't want too much stretch, because I've always got the ties that will pull it in. So then it sort of looks like that. But see, sometimes it misses stitches. So you basically go along the top and then start going around the sides. So we're at this stage. Now when you do it, you'll see that there are certain places, like around the edge of the legs, where you do need to just pull it just a little bit as you sew, but only a little bit. Okay. Right, after a bit of thinking, I think this is quite important. So I've attached my ties, but I don't like how they don't look very neat. So I'm going to do this. I hope you can see. Can you see? Right, okay. What I'm doing is, this is the front waist or hip bit. I'm folding that over my tie, which I've already stitched on right sides together. And then I'm folding that over it, and I'm going to stitch across there. Okay? Hopefully. Using that zigzag stitch that I have been doing. And then, when we turn it the right way round, it's not only a lot neater, but we've also set up our seams that are going to be ready for doing the twin needle. Does that make sense? I just think it's much neater. So I'm going to do that to all of where my ties are. Okay, even though I haven't finished off the edge, I just wanted to try it on, because I'm just trying to decide whether to put like a frilly lace edge, because what's the point in making a bikini if you can't make it really unique? Anyway, that's how it looks without. There's the back. It's all functioning really, really well. The ties are stretching, no threads are breaking. So that's great, but do I want to put a lacy edge on it? Or do they end up looking like pants? I don't know if it's going to be a mistake, but I'm giving the frilly lace edge a go. So before I actually turn under and top stitch the elastic and all that into place, I'm going to apply the lace on. I've changed my threads to white. I'm still in zigzag mode, and basically, so it doesn't restrict the movement, I'm pulling the actual swimming costume and then zigzagging the lace on. So I'm pulling the costume to its normal stretch and then zigzagging the lace. So I'm doing that all around the legs because I just want the lace to go around the legs. So once you're ready to do the twin needle, I'm just doing it across here just to show you. It's quite bulky there. With my fabric it is quite bulky there, so I don't know how close to there I'm going to go. But I'm going to lift up the foot, get it in position, make sure I've folded over enough, and I find it sometimes a bit tricky going backwards and forwards with twin needle, but that time it seemed okay. And you're stretching as you sew, just a little bit, not too much though. And we're on a straight stitch now. So I'm twin needling across the top front of my bikini, a little bit of stretch there. Staying the same distance, away from the edge. And then if you can go backwards and forwards to close off the seam. But it does give a much more professional finish than doing just the zigzag. Now I have sort of learnt from doing the other side that when I zigzag the lace on, it is important to leave a long excess because I don't know what to do with it yet. But when I'm zigzagging it on, I need to be close to the edge where it's going to be rolled over, because otherwise I'm getting this gaping that I've got there. So using a zigzag stitch, stretching the bikini as I sew, and making sure that the zigzag falls in line with the line of wherever it is that I'm going to be turning it. Now when we go to sew it with the lace on, it's just a tiny bit trickier, but it's all right. So you fold it back to where the lace goes, get it under the machine. You might need to lift the foot to do that. Get everything in position, ready to begin sewing. Now if you can, go backwards and forwards in the beginning, but sometimes it is quite tricky. Now we're stretching it to the natural position it was before you did anything, and then just folding it back, it's like about that much seam allowance, and then just to the right of the seam allowance, that's where you're doing your twin needle, because then on the other side it does the zigzag. And again, just work your way around the leg. And then when you get to that last bit, try and go backwards and forwards again. Otherwise you can just tie off the ends. I don't know what you think about those. But I sure am glad that I decided to add that lace edge. Don't know what will happen when I go in the sea. So that's basically how to make a pretty good quality bikini bottom, string bikini bottom. We cut 2 of the bikini tops in the actual fabric, but then we also cut 2 in the lining. Now you don't have to do this, but I'm doing it because everybody else seems to do it actually, but I'm not sure it's entirely necessary. And we're going to focus on, just like how we did in part 1 when we did the bottoms, we have to get the lining and the top fabric basically sewn together. And you can either zigzag the edges to hold it all together, or you can use an overlocker. Now what's also important is, now I think it's a very good idea to go around and do little notches through to the lining, just tiny little ones, so that when you zigzag it together, you can see if the fabric's moving or not. Now lucky for me, my triangles for this string bikini top seem to be symmetrical on both sides, so there doesn't seem to be a left and a right, so that's quite a bargain. So let's put the ties on now. So to put the ties on, I'm going to flip it over so the fabric's right sides together, and then I'm going to fold in that side and fold in the other side, basically the seam allowance worth. Then I'm just going to stitch across there to hold it into place using a very short and narrow zigzag stitch, going backwards and forwards a couple of times. And then I'll do it on the other side as well. Forward a bit. And then back. I'll do that a couple of times because it really needs to stay in place. With us having done that, we've sort of set up the hem ready to be zigzagged or twin needled on the reverse side. So that's quite neat really. And then the right side, when it's all folded back, looks like that. Now for this next bit, usually all you would have to do is, working from the top, you would just zigzag the hem going up to there, or twin needle like I did on the bottoms, and then go down there as well, hemming it like that. But, of course, I've complicated it a bit more than that. Because I've got my frilly lace stuff on the bottom, I really want it on the top. And before I start hemming it, I'm going to just stretch the fabric whilst zigzagging it like that, with the fabric right sides together, going onto the broderie anglaise. So first of all, line up your edge. Now I want the lace to kind of go off into nothing, so that's where I'm going to start, up there at the top. I do feel like I'm working the wrong way around, but I'm doing this so that you can see. Or zigzag your lace onto the edge. So first of all, do a couple of stitches to hold it in place, and then you've got to start stretching a little bit the fabric underneath. Okay, just a bit, you don't have to go crazy. So I'm just stretching it just a bit and making sure that the lace goes to the edge. So that's the first thing. Now just like we did when we did the bikini bottoms, we need to put this elastic around the left and the right hand side of the triangles of the bikini top, and we just use exactly the same method. So we're just going to zigzag it on. Hold it in place first. Now we're going to stretch it a little bit, but not too much. So just a little bit. I'm just stretching it just a tiny bit. We've zigzagged the elastic to our edges, to all of those edges, not along the bottom though. And don't worry if you can't get the elastic all the way up there, it doesn't matter, okay, so long as it starts maybe a couple of centimetres down. Now this is now ready for us to fold back and do a twin needle or a zigzag stitch to hold it in place. I'm going to fold back the amount of seam allowance that I've allowed for my hem. Put it to straight stitch, and I've got quite a big stitch. I've got number 3. I'm going backwards and forwards. Now as you sew, you fill the hem, okay? And you sort of stretch a little bit. The good thing about twin needle is somehow, because the 2 lines are symmetrical, I don't know, it creates an illusion. And then that's the reverse side, which isn't too bad. So this kind of frayed edge, once it gets wet, it will just stop fraying and just look fine. So look, we're getting there. We're nearly done. All we've got to do is just hem the bottom part. Now, you can either do a small zigzag stitch or a twin needle. I haven't decided yet. Now, because I sort of need to ease it around the bend, because it's a curve, I've decided to use a small zigzag because then I have more control. I'm going to do a little hem, wide enough to get the tie through, and starting at the edge, my small zigzag is going to fall along the same line as my overlocked edge. But as I'm folding it up, I'm also creating a few little gathers, which hopefully will look all right on the other side. So that's fine. I've created a nice little channel to thread the tie through. Now, I couldn't wait to see what it looked like, so I've already, using a loop turner, I've already pulled through one of the ties. But do you know what? I've just realised something. These ties should be continuous, so I'm going to have to join them somewhere, probably in the middle, I suppose. Using a zigzag stitch, I'll just zigzag over it. Right, I'm going to do the other side now. You are not going to see me try this one on, or not properly anyway. But I might just post some pictures on the beach in Corsica next week, maybe, if I've got a tan. Now believe me, it's not difficult. It really is not difficult doing this tutorial to make a string bikini. And if you didn't do the lining, and if you didn't add the funny lacy bit, then it's even more easy. And you don't need to do twin needle. You can just do a zigzag stitch when you do that hem. Thank you so much for watching Stitchless TV. And if you decide to make a string bikini, share it with me on my Facebook page, Stitchless TV. Thank you so much for watching. See you again very soon. Bye.